Welcome to the Empower Podcast, where wellness meets real life and empowerment becomes your way of being. I'm your host, Sam. Hi guys, welcome back to the Empower Podcast. All right, today is a solo episode. I'm going to give a little life update and then jump into a highly requested Q&A episode on all things macros. I know that I dropped an episode on macros a few weeks back, kind of like a 101, but I got so many good questions and I was like, you know what? This deserves an entire episode of itself of just questions and me answering, because macros at the end of the day, it's not black and white. There's so much gray area. It's such a personalized and customized thing that I feel like when you know more and have more knowledge, it's going to empower you more in that journey. So we'll dig into that. But a little life update. All right, about 30 minutes ago, I just got off a flight from New York. So I am all things tired right now, but we are going to be pushing through. I got some girl chat to do with y'all. But no, we had a great time in New York City. We went, Ian and I, for a Navy SEAL Foundation dinner. So I don't know. Some of you guys might know this. Some of you may not. But Ian, my boyfriend, he is a Navy SEAL. So he served for many years. He is now in the reserves, but we had a really great benefit dinner in New York City and had a great time. And that was my first event with him in any capacity of Navy SEAL. So when we first started dating, he was already in the reserves, was not active duty. So I had not gone to many events with him. So this was our first one, but it was really cool just seeing all of the amazing SEAL members, active duty, reserves, hearing their stories. It was super powerful experience, and honestly just walked away just feeling so grateful for the men and women that serve our country every day. So it was a really fun time. We were there for 24 hours, so did not get to do much, but I always make it a point, anywhere we go, to try out new coffee shops. So we did get to try out a coffee shop. It was really good, but it was literally we got on the plane, got to NYC, went to the dinner, woke up this morning, and then came back to Nashville. But next week, we're really excited. We are headed to Berlin. I am so excited. I have never been to Europe, which is crazy to say. Europe has been a place, obviously, that I've been wanting to get to for many years now. Honestly, over the years, I have just not traveled much. If I do, it's to the beach or with my kids somewhere. And I think it's just life was so fast paced. It was hard to find a good amount of time to just pick up and go travel internationally. But I am traveling with the Puma team, Puma Training, and we are headed to HYROX. So I'm so excited. So we have HYROX in Berlin next Friday, and then we're going to go to the Swiss Alps, so Lake Lucerne, and then we're going to hit Zurich up and spend about 4 extra days in Germany and then come home. So really excited. I have already gotten some feedback from you guys as far as places to go, restaurants, sites to see. So I am definitely the type of person too where I need a full itinerary just to make sure I am doing as much as I can, hitting all the spots I can. But honestly, it'll be fun just to take some time to relax and just see the beauty of the Swiss Alps too. And Lake Lucerne, I've heard it's absolutely gorgeous. Update in my training. I have been training for HYROX, so I am doing this with Ian next week. We will be doing it together, which is always fun. The same thing that we did with Atlanta. And then I'm going to be doing another HYROX race in New York. And I'm actually going to be doing this with a relay. So a few girls that I know that I work with, we are going to be doing that together. It should be really fun. And the relays I've never done for HYROX, but I've heard it's a blast because obviously you're splitting it up between a few people and you're able just to kind of go full force with what you're assigned. You pick a couple stations, you run a couple laps, and then you're done. So it's more of a fun effort. Obviously, we're going to give it our all to try to get a good time, but it should be a really fun experience. And then my training's going to shift a little bit. So I'm not going to be training for HYROX as much. I'm going to try to maintain that, obviously throw in some workouts here and there, but going to be really focusing on bodybuilding. And then in July, which seems like it's far away, but I know it's going to pop up right around the corner, I'm going to start my training for the New York City Marathon. So really excited about that. I'm going to be following my own marathon training plan, and That's about 16 weeks of running and strength training. So that's super important to me because anytime I run and run a lot, it's just really hard for me to maintain muscle mass. And I think a lot of runners can say that. Like, you have to dial in the nutrition, make sure that you are on top of it. So that's something that I'm going to be very diligent about with this marathon training. I ran a marathon a couple of years ago, and I think looking back, I'm like, okay, the nutrition, that's definitely an area for me to dial in a little bit more. So going to make sure I'm eating enough, hitting my protein, strength training about 4 to 5 days a week, and then get those runs in. So just going to try to make sure that my body is in its strongest state. And the cool thing about it too is that Ian is going to be doing it with me. So we're going to be running for the SEAL Foundation. That is our charity. And he's going to be running with me. He did it last year. And if he was here, I would still call him out, but he did not train, you guys. Like, the most amount of miles he ran before the New York City Marathon last year was like 7. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I knew it was like less than 10. And somehow he went, ran that marathon, absolutely killed it. But I swear that just says so much about like a SEAL. Like, obviously you have to be in good physical form and a good state, but so much of it is mental, and he will tell you that. I definitely want to get him on the podcast just to kind of share about his SEAL experience and mentality and like pushing through those limits that you don't think are possible for you to reach, because so much of what we do in life, especially when it comes to like physical challenges or whatever that may be, it's like such a mental game. So anyways, he's going to be training with me this year. I told him, I was like, all right, you're going to have to train with me. We're going to have to do this together, but I think it'll make just the process so much fun. So that is a little life update. I cannot believe that summer is around the corner. The kids are about to get out of school, and yeah, we have some fun trips planned. Going to go to the beach in a few weeks down in Sandestin area, Miramar Beach in Florida, and just soak up some sunshine, some vitamin D with those kiddos and have a good time. So have a good summer planned. Let's dig into all things macros. So I'm honestly just going to kind of pull some questions that I got in my DMs from this past episode that I did a few weeks ago. So let's just start from the top. Question number 1, how do I know if I'm eating the right amount of protein for my goals? 1 gram per pound of body weight sounds like so much from where I realize I'm at. Help. So completely understand that it can be very overwhelming. I think with any new thing that we bring into our life, when we're learning about it, it just seems like a lot, right? But the more that you do, the more that you practice, the easier it is to understand and honestly like implement into a lifestyle. So I always say, just track for a week. And this is something that I tell my clients, tell my friends. If you're new to the game, and protein, which is something that I always say, like, track first. If it feels overwhelming and it feels like a lot, just track for a week to see where you're at. I'm guessing that this person that sent in this question might feel like where they're at right now with protein is probably lower than what they need to be getting in, about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So I would say in this case, the rule of thumb is, 1 gram per pound of body weight. But say that you are 130 pounds and you track for a week and you're getting in 65 grams of protein, right? It's like, okay, we want to eventually double that. So basically, if you feel like it's a lot, just start small, 0.7 times your body weight, start there. And I always say too, like 20, 25 grams of protein per meal. So if you just do that, focus on lean meats, eggs, egg whites, kind of do it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that way, and then throw in a couple high protein snacks, you'll honestly be amazed at how quickly you hit that goal. But again, start out small, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's totally okay. And just remember that tracking is key. It's a tool that's going to help you get there. All right, next question. So I feel like I'm always hungry. Does that mean my macros are off? So possibly when you are not consuming enough protein and or enough fiber, usually your hunger cues will become a little bit more intense, be a little bit stronger. So protein and fiber are 2 nutrients that are going to make you feel fuller for longer and more satisfied. A lot of the times that's because of the TEF, so the thermic effect of food, which means that Basically, it's going to take a little bit longer for your body to digest protein specifically, and more calories are going to be burned in this process. So because it's going to be taking a little bit longer for your body to digest, that means that you're not going to have those hunger cues as quickly as maybe carbs or fats. So I'm pretty sure when it comes to the TEF, the thermic effect of food for protein, it's about 20 to 30% of calories, and carbs, I think, is around 5 to 10%, and then fats is less than 5. But protein is going to take a little bit longer for your body to digest. That's why I always say focus on protein, focus on fiber. I would test yourself with increasing your protein, increasing your fiber, and specifically too, I think a key and a little trick is something that I do whenever I have my food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I look at my plate, see my protein, see my fiber. I always try to eat those first. So specifically fiber first. I heard this from Glucose Goddess, but she said that basically when you eat fiber first, it basically reduces your insulin spike by like up to 30% if you eat that first, and then you can move on to your protein and your carbs. But that's something that I've done. I find that my body digests better this way as well. But yeah, focusing on protein. Again, I feel like I preach it all the time, but protein, but seriously, that's going to really help those hunger cues. Also, too, I feel like if you're overeating in sugar, that's going to kind of seep into that carb field. Most of the time when I work with clients and they just constantly, are craving sugar, they're hungry. Usually, again, that's like a protein deficiency, not getting enough fiber in. Also look at water too, because our bodies are made up of so much water. And if we're not bringing that back into our bodies, that can also hide when it comes to hunger cues. So I would say first couple things to try out if you are in this position where you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner snacks and you're still hungry is to make sure you're obviously eating enough protein, enough fiber, and then also drinking enough water. I could also say maybe test it out with some electrolytes too. If your electrolytes aren't balanced, which when we look at electrolytes, we're looking at sodium, we're looking at potassium, magnesium. Your body needs a balance of all of those, right? So that's going to also help with any kind of like hunger cues, kind of giving what your body needs to be in a hydrated state. So I would also say maybe think about that. And if you're drinking enough water, I try to aim for like 2 large Stanleys a day, plus more if I can. So that's 80 ounces of water. That's like the least that I'm going to drink. I try to do at least 3 of those, honestly. But I think that's a good starting point. So if you're one of those that's maybe drinking 2 8-ounce glasses of water a day and you're hungry, that might be a sign to get your water intake going a little bit more. Okay, so next question. Is it bad if I go over my fats or carbs some days as long as I hit my protein? I would say in this situation, it totally depends on what your goals are. If you're somebody that's just like, you know what, I just want to feel healthy, look healthy, go to the gym, I think that prioritizing protein is key, right? Making sure that you're hitting that caloric goal every day as well. And then kind of flexing when it comes to the carbs and fats and not putting so much pressure. If you're an athlete, or maybe you're a bodybuilder or have like certain aesthetic goals, that's when carbs and fats come into play, right? It really does make a difference when it comes to the nutrient timings of these and making sure that you're getting enough carbs or fats depending on your goals. For instance, if you're an athlete, if you are training for a marathon or training for HYROX or a race or whatever that may be, right? And you're trying to maintain muscle mass, performance is key. I would say carbs are very important. You want to make sure that you're eating enough carbs because when carbs enter the body, when it comes from a performance standpoint, when they go into the muscle, they're stored as glycogen. So glycogen is going to give you that energy to honestly make your performance better in the long run. So you need those carbs to fuel you, to help you perform better in your workouts and, any races or training that you might be doing. When it comes to the fats too, like that's great for hormonal health. We need to make sure that we're getting enough fats in. So I think just from a hormonal standpoint, and energy too, like they come into play with that. It's super important to make sure you're getting enough. But I think specifically when carbs are important, looking at aesthetic and performance, it's making sure that you're getting enough. Because if you're trying to hit goals when it comes to the performance side of training and you're not getting enough in, you might feel not as much energy. And honestly, your workouts might not be as good. So just something to think about. And also too, if you're talking about like okay, I might be going over my carbs and fats some days and then others I'm hitting. Like, is that bad necessarily? I kind of like to tell my clients, look at it from like a 5 to 7 day span. So if you go over one day or under one day and you are trying to track consistently with those macros, I would give yourself grace. At the end of the day, look at it on paper, kind of from afar and say, okay, Monday through Sunday, how did I do? Did it average out to be the same? Like, that's kind of what I want you guys to look at it from is total calories. Is it pretty average? Carbs and fats. Is it pretty average? Protein. Is it pretty average? If you're over, obviously that's going to be in a surplus. If you're under, a deficit. But if they kind of average out, I wouldn't put too much focus or stress on it. So what do you recommend for someone who has never tracked before? Where do I even start? It can be so overwhelming. And I remember when I first started or hearing about macros, just like the word macros, I was like, that sounds like it's a lot. And it is in the grand scheme of things. I think, like I said earlier, it's not black and white. There's so many gray areas. There's a lot to learn, but just start from the basics. And if you can, work with a coach or work with somebody, a nutritionist, a trainer, whoever that may be, that could help you kind of give you that basic knowledge to make you feel empowered and start that journey. I think that's key. Something that I know you guys know I have is my macro guide. I also offer a one-time count every single month. So I open it for a specific day and then I close it. But it's a great opportunity if you're just kind of interested in seeing what your macros might be based on your goals. That's something that I can do for you guys. And then the macro guide is so awesome. It has so many great nuggets of gold, so much great education in there, where if you are just kind of wanting to learn about macros in general, that's something that I offer all the time. So I have it on my Instagram and my links. You guys can find it on my website, but it just gives a lot of great knowledge and education when it comes to learning the basics of macros, because again, there can be a lot of information, but I feel like if you just focus on the basics when it comes to the rule of thumb for protein, for carbs, for fats, and depending on your goals, maybe what those numbers look like based on calculations, it can be a very empowering thing and a really amazing tool to use to help you get to your goals. Today's episode is brought to you by Dream Recovery, the ultimate brand for optimizing your rest and recovery. As someone who is about creating a healthy balance in all areas of their health, I know how much good sleep transforms your performance in your everyday life, and Dream Recovery takes it to the next level. Dream Recovery's innovative products are designed to help you wake up feeling like your best self, whether it's their Dream Strips, which I personally use every night, that help you breathe better and sleep deeper, or their Dream Tape Plus, infused with anti-aging skincare to promote nasal breathing and glowing skin. This brand is all about helping you feel refreshed, restored, and ready to conquer the day. I personally thought mouth tape was just a trend, but decided to try it out anyways, and I kid you not, you guys, after a few nights of using it, I noticed my sleep improved and my energy increased. I really could see the difference on my Garmin watch and saw my REM and deep sleep cycles lengthen, which was wild to me. Bonus, if your partner snores, slap some mouth tape on them, because Ian even stopped snoring. I love that Dream Recovery's mission is rooted in the idea of awakening our full potential, because when we sleep better, we do better. So whether you're an athlete, a busy parent, or just someone trying to prioritize wellness, Dream Recovery has the tools you need to level up your recovery game. Visit dreamrecovery.io and use the code SAM15 at checkout. Do I have to track macros forever? I want to reach my goals, but I hate feeling obsessed. How do you not think about food all day if you need to hit your numbers? I get this. And as somebody who has dealt with an eating disorder in the past, I was really nervous to start tracking macros a couple of years ago, to be honest. It was something that obviously I was obsessive with in the past when it came around food with my eating disorder, which I want to have like a whole nother episode to dive into that. But the way I looked at it is I'm using this as a tool to help me be in control, to fuel my body to its fullest state. And that was like the mentality that I always held on to when I started learning about macros. So instead of thinking of it as like, oh, this is going to be like an obsessive thing, it was like, no, this is a tool that I'm going to use. I don't have to use it forever, right? It can come in and out of my life, which has been the case over the last couple of years. And it's going to help empower me and give me give my body what it needs at the end of the day. Say you have some goals, you want to learn about macros, give yourself a goal of like 3 months. Okay, I'm going to track for 3 months, kind of see where I'm at. And something that I do with my clients is I try to make it a lifestyle, right? When you learn about macros and you kind of weigh your food out, or whatever that may be at a restaurant, you can see kind of where the macros are. A lot of restaurants give that, which is great. Or in my Fitness Pal, when you're tracking, and you can kind of see what that food looks like and what it translates to when it comes to specific macros. You kind of memorize it, and then it just kind of becomes like an intuitive habit over time and a lifestyle, quite frankly. I think that there can definitely be more of an opportunity for things to become obsessive when you are tracking protein, carbs, and fats every single day, like obviously forever. Like that could be a lot. So I think just picking one macro in the beginning, or if you want to make it long term, just to feel more empowered in that sense, I think protein is a great place to focus on. That's something that I do. So the majority of the time, I am tracking protein at all times. Very rarely am I focusing on tracking protein, carbs, and fats. But there are going to be times in my life where I do bring that back in. Like right now, I am tracking because I have some goals that I'm trying to hit when it comes to building more muscle mass and performance in my workouts. So that's where tracking those carbs and fats are going to be very important as well. But I know that that's not going to be something that I'm going to be doing forever, right? Probably a few months, and then I'm going to go back to strictly just tracking my protein, because if I had to pick one, that would be the most important. So after this 3 months of tracking, or however long I'm going to be doing this personally, what I like to go back to is just listening to my body. You guys, listening to your body is so important, and our bodies will communicate to us if you just listen to it, and you have to act on that. So for me, it's like, okay, if I know that I'm fueling my body with whole foods and prioritizing protein, trying to eat as clean as possible, I'm going to start listening to those cues that my body is asking for, right? Like in the morning when I am hungry, I'm going to eat. I'm going to focus on whole foods, clean foods, protein, and then I'm going to stop when I'm about 80% full. That's something that's always worked for me. And kind of creating that lifestyle and sticking with that is what has worked best for me. What is a reverse diet, and why do you say it's just as important as the time spent in a deficit? Okay, I love this question. And reverse dieting is something that I think is being talked about a lot, and something that's like very important to think about. So a reverse diet is gradually increasing those calories after a deficit. And when I say deficit, that means that you are consuming in less calories than you're burning every single day. And if you want to learn more about this, I have a whole episode on macros a few weeks back where I kind of dive into BMR, TDEE, and all the things. So with reverse dieting, I think that there's a couple situations on when this is important. So like I said, a deficit, when you are consuming in less calories than you're burning, you really want to only stay in this for around 8 to 12 weeks. If you stay in that longer, that risks the opportunity of that becoming your maintenance, right? Those total calories, which we don't want that. That's going to slow your metabolism. It could cause hormonal imbalances, amongst other things. So we want to make sure that you're getting your body enough calories it needs to function in that sense. Reverse dieting. So when you are intentionally dieting, right? Being in that deficit, like I said, 8 to 12 weeks, you want to bring your calories back up. And a lot of people do this through reverse dieting. So when I work with clients, I see this a lot. Also doing my one-time macro counts, I kind of read these stories, and it's so interesting to me. But something that I've done in the past as well is unintentionally under eating. And so basically you're in a deficit, not really knowing because you're not tracking, right? But you're not giving your body the calories it needs. So when I have clients, for instance, like hypothetically, I have a client that comes to me and, she says, I work out every day. I'm, eating. I'm not losing weight. I just don't know what's going on. Like if anything, I'm kind of gaining weight. And then I have them track, right? I kind of look at some numbers. If they go on a scale, I can see their body comp, body fat percentage, their muscle mass, kind of see what's going on numbers wise. A lot of the times it's because they're under eating what their body needs just to function, right? That BMR. In situations like this, that means that their metabolism has stalled, and they're not going to lose weight this way, right? Like what they're eating has kind of became their new maintenance, because quite literally their body is looking at it from a fight or flight starvation mode, and they're storing anything that's coming in, storing it as fat. And that's why, honestly, they're not losing weight in the long run. So in situations like this, either coming off of a deficit, unintentionally under eating, I always reverse diet. So basically we'll raise their calories about 50 to 100 calories each week until we get to that goal that we want that I kind of calculate for them. Everybody looks different, but let's say it's, somebody who's eating 1,200 calories a day in a deficit, under eating unintentionally. Say I raise them to 1,800, 50 to 100 calories each day until they get to that 1,800 calories, right? And from that, so many times, honestly, 9 out of 10 times they start losing weight because they're fueling their body with more calories. It's going to raise their metabolism. It's going to cause them to burn more calories in the long run because of this. And then they sit there for X amount of time. And, again, not always 1,800 calories. Sometimes it's 2,100 calories. Sometimes it's 2,200 calories. It totally depends on the person. But from there, then they can go back into a deficit after an extended amount of time once their body has regulated again, once their metabolism is better. But it's pretty amazing when you're not giving your body the calories it needs, what can happen. And then the effect that reverse dieting can come from that. So pretty powerful. So can you build muscle and lose fat at the same time, or should I focus on one? Yes. So this is called body recomposition, and it can be done. Now it takes some hard work because there's a couple things that have to be done here. The first thing is you need to be in a caloric deficit, meaning that you are burning less calories than you're consuming. Doesn't have to be a lot depending on what your goal is in, but a slight caloric deficit is going to be key here. And then protein. So you want to make sure that you're hitting your protein and 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight at the least. Right now, personally, just to kind of let you guys know, I'm kind of working on my body recomp and really trying to build some muscle mass, shed a little bit of body fat, nothing crazy, but I'm really focusing on protein. Like right now, I'm eating about 160 grams of protein every single day, and it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of, prepping when it comes to meal prepping and logging in my FitnessPal. Even me, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I still got to be on it because that's a lot of protein. 160 grams is a lot of protein, but yes, it can be done. Also, something that I'm doing that any of my clients, when they kind of want to work on body recomp, gaining muscle while losing body fat, is combining proper nutrition, like I said. So a slight caloric deficit, prioritizing that protein, but also combining that with lifting weights, right? That's going to help build that muscle. So when you pair proper nutrition, and then you pair that with strength training and lifting weights, like the results you'll see is pretty amazing. I would say give yourself a goal of 3 months. Usually it's about 3 to 6 months of hard work. You'll start seeing results. So it doesn't happen overnight, but just know that with the hard work, it can be done. How do I hit my protein goal without eating chicken all day? LOL. I feel you on this. I remember when I first got into like the health, fitness, nutrition world, I would see like all the bodybuilders and it's just like chicken, beef, rice. And I was like, that seems so plain. But honestly, it does not have to be like that. I think that prioritizing whole foods is so important. Okay, so if you feel like this and you're like bored with cooking chicken, I'm about to give you guys a full list of all of my favorites, okay? Lean meats are ideal, right? So chicken, ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken, fish. I love doing like canned tuna, Safe Catch tuna. That's the brand that I get from Costco. It has like low mercury levels, but it's one of my favorites. So I'll get that. Salmon. I love mahi. I get all of mine from Costco as well, like the frozen. Something I get questions about too is like the difference of like farm raised and wild caught. Always get wild caught. That's going to be the most fresh, the best for you when it comes to overall health. But I get all mine from Costco. So a wide variety of meats, right? It doesn't have to be chicken all day long. Eggs are going to be your best friend when it comes to macros and protein. So I love eating eggs. I eat about like 2 to 4 a day, but something that I do is add egg whites to all of my eggs. That's going to add in more protein without putting too much fat in there. If you can tolerate dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, just look on Instagram, like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt recipes. And there's so many creative dishes that you'll be able to pull up and recipes that you can make with these. I know I've posted on my page before cottage cheese flatbread. So you can make, pizza out of that, turn it into some type of like yummy flatbread. But there's so many like little creative things that you can do to make your dishes a little bit more fun. So snacks. And I feel like I am targeting the moms listening because I have been there. I understand it's so easy just to reach for like the kids snacks in situations where you're like, oh, I just need a quick bite of something. But Some of my favorite high protein snacks that are easy to reach for without reaching the kid snacks are Chomp Sticks. I love Chomp Sticks. They have like the blue package. I think it's like sea salt or something like that. But that flavor is so good. I love the Chomp Sticks. Protein shakes. You can do this in a clean, healthy way. So you'll know I love Pro Mix, but it is grass-fed, whey protein, all clean ingredients. You can put that in a smoothie. You could put that with some milk or water, shake it on the go. You're good to go. They have really good protein bars as well, the protein puff bars that are really great macros. Like, I feel like it's hard to find a good, clean protein bar that tastes good, but also has good macros. Everything's so balanced. It's one of my favorites. I travel with them. Like, always have them in my purse or my bag for on the go. And then something else I really like to do is bone broth. So Kettle and Fire is a brand that I love, but if I want something high protein and something that's going to kind of last me if I'm at home, I'll just pour some bone broth into a like coffee tea mug, heat that up, and oh my goodness, it's so tasty. It'll keep you full, and it has a lot of high protein in there. So that's a good one as well. So why do you say that carbs aren't bad? I thought they make you gain weight. So this question is something that I would have completely asked a good like 5 to 8 years ago, because I thought the same thing. And I don't know why like that is a perception. I think that's something that has been like a fear-mongering thing, right? Carbs when it comes to women in society. And we need to break that because carbs are so important. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, carbs aren't going to make you gain weight. It's the excess calories, right? So when we look at macros, and I talked about this in the macros one-on-one, but every gram of carb, protein, fat is going to be a certain amount of calories. So 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of carb is 4 calories, and then 1 gram of fat is going to be 9 calories. So when you kind of look at those macros, depending on what that's going to be for you, that's going to total a certain amount of calories. So at the end of the day, like our bodies need carbs, and kind of going back earlier into the episode, like we need carbs to have like effective workouts. Like I eat carbs. I eat so many more carbs than I did years ago when I was quote unquote skinny fat, because I'm actually giving my muscles what they need. That way I'm performing better in my workouts, building better muscle because I'm eating that protein as well. And then I'm going to be burning more body fat in the long run because of this. So we need to stop making carbs the enemy. I think if you have a well-balanced plate of protein, carbs, and fats, you'll be amazed at what that can do for your body comp when you're also lifting weights and fueling your body in other ways. So we need to remove that fear. I mean, carbs are so good when it comes to brain health too, outside of just like body comp and what it does for performance in our workouts. And there's a difference between like simple carbs and complex carbs. So if you're eating like sugar all day from candy, that's carbs, right? Like that's going to be a little bit different than if you're eating rice, potatoes, bananas, carbs like that you know are going to be fueling your body in a positive way. Okay, so how do you track when eating out or during busy weeks when things aren't perfect? I think this is a very important question because I still have days like that. And if I know I'm having a busy week or it's going to be hard to track in the day, this is my biggest tip. So in your app, whether you use MyFitnessPal, Lose It, both great apps, pre-log everything the day before. That way you're not scrambling the day of, or maybe it's like already halfway through the day and you're like, gosh, I'm so off track. I have not done what I'm supposed to be doing. If you pre-log and if you meal prep, it's going to set you up for success. So you just kind of have to think ahead and you have to make it a priority. Now, if you're on vacation or maybe you're out and about eating at a restaurant, I totally understand like feeling that wave of anxiety of being like, oh no, I'm going to fall off the wagon here, right? And a lot of the apps, sometimes they'll have the restaurants that will have the specific dishes or recipes that you decide to get, or just kind of think about your plate from a whole food perspective and break it apart that way. So if you're looking at a menu and you're like, okay, there's all of these pasta dishes, these casseroles, look for a dish that's going to have basically just as much whole foods as possible. Chicken, a veggie, and a carb, okay? That's kind of how I think. Yes, it might be boring, but guess what? It's going to help you get to your goals, and that's what we're trying to do here. And then I kind of break it down from there. So if it's like fried chicken, like I'm going to ask them if they can make it grilled. If it comes with a sauce on top, I'm going to ask for that on the side. I'm basically going to try to make my plate as whole foods as possible. And that way I can break it apart and enter it into MyFitnessPal. So 5 ounces of chicken, a cup of green beans, a cup of potatoes, and call it a day. It's super simple that way. Again, it might be boring, but you know what? We all have to make sacrifices to get to our goals. And I have found like this is the easiest thing to help me stay on track. Okay, how do I know if I should be in a deficit or if I should be eating more? That's a great question. Again, like I said, I think if you literally had no idea and you're starting from scratch, getting like a coach of some sort, I think is a great idea. If that's something that you guys can't do, I would recommend finding a body comp scale. So InBody, they're at a lot of gyms. DEXA scan, you guys can look that up on Google and probably find one near you. There's also some at-home scale. So Hume Health is the one that I have. InBody also has an at-home scale. But basically, this is going to measure kind of everything that's going on in your body. So your weight, it's going to look at your body fat percentage, where your muscle mass is at. So that's, I think, a great like baseline to see where your body is at. Then I would say kind of track for a week. And then you ask yourself some questions like, okay, has my body fat percentage remained the same? Have I been gaining muscle mass? Have I been gaining or losing weight overall? And then kind of tracking this and seeing where your numbers at are going to help you figure out what your goal needs to be. If you have somebody that your overall weight is maybe increasing, your body fat is increasing, but your muscle mass is maybe staying the same or dropping a little bit, I would say in this situation, I would probably go into a slight caloric deficit, but also raise your protein, right? Because your weight's increasing your body fat. So maybe a little bit of a deficit would be good, but you want to make sure that you're preserving any kind of lean muscle mass and building that as well. So that's when it's like, hey, we need to increase our protein. Like that might be a good sign. However, in another hypothetical case, say that your body is completely plateaued. So you're not losing weight necessarily. You are not building muscle mass. It might be that your body needs a little bit more calories, kind of like what I was talking about earlier in the reverse diet section of this podcast episode. Maybe it just means that your body needs a little bit more calories to help jumpstart that metabolism, which is going to help you burn more calories and lose more body fat in the long run. I think it's a lot of just asking yourself questions, kind of looking to specific body comp numbers, tracking for a little bit just to kind of get a general better understanding of where your body is at. And I think that if you feel like you have the confidence in yourself to kind of run with that and build a plan yourself, I think that's great. Or you can work with a coach, right, to help you get there. What's more important, hitting your calories or hitting your macros? All right, listen up. If I want you to remember anything today, it's this. So calories are going to impact your weight change. Macros are going to impact your body comp change. Two completely different things. Because when you look at macros and you figure out what that's going to be goal-wise for you, it's going to add up to a total calorie, right? So you're still hitting a total calorie based on your goal. But the breakdown of those macros, depending on what that is going to help you reach that goal or maybe not, depending on where you set it at. So again, if you are lifting heavy and you're eating 1,900 calories a day, but you're not prioritizing protein, getting the right carbs you need, the right fats, so maybe it's just mainly carbs, like your body's going to look completely different than eating 1,900 calories of a good balance of protein, hitting 1 gram per pound of body weight, and also eating the right amount of carbs and fats. Your body comp is just going to look completely different at the end of the day. Do I need to count macros if I just want to tone up and feel good? I think in this case, it's not worth the headache if you find it to be stressful to track all three. Honestly, just make sure that you're hitting your protein. And then when you kind of add in the protein and just listen to your body intuitively, take some time, do that for like a month or two and just see how your body feels. Toning is a hard word for me because I think at the end of the day, that just is like a fancy way of saying building muscle and losing body fat. So to do this, right, you need to make sure that you're maybe in a slight caloric deficit to lose that body fat, and then eating enough protein to build that muscle. I would say that you also want to be mindful of what your total calorie count is for the day. And again, like if there's one day that's off, one day that's on, like I said earlier, kind of look at it from like a week, 5 to 7 day perspective and make sure that you're averaging out and not going over because that'll put you in a surplus. But I feel like if you really just track protein, like you're going to be okay. If you just want to feel good, if you just want to tone up, make sure that you're in the right calorie zone, and then obviously hitting your protein, like I said. So many great questions. I think at the end of the day, like I said earlier, macros, it's not black and white. There's so many gray areas depending on what your goals are, and that could change, right? Like your macros that are going to be for a certain goal that you have in one period of your life could change the next year depending on what you're doing, or maybe where your body comp is at. Like, you have new goals. You set those new goals and try to hit those with different macros. So again, it's not black and white. It can be a lot, but I hope that these questions were helpful and kind of got the wheels turning, answered some of your questions that you guys had. Like I said, I have my macro guide. I try to offer a lot of like recipes on my page and always include the macros on there as well. So if you are looking for like meal inspo, I have a lot on my page and in my app as well. Once a month, like I said, I'm opening up those one-time counts. So if you feel like you are ready to get a count for yourself and tackle it and feel challenged in that sense, I would love to help you get to your goals. But again, it does not have to be overwhelming. I will always say it is a tool in your toolkit that you can bring up every once in a while and use to help you get to your goals, and put it back away until you feel like you need it again. So macros is such a powerful tool, and I've really seen it transform my life, and hopefully will transform yours when you're ready to do so. But again, always love chatting with you guys, and I will see you all next week.